You're sitting there with your phone in your hand. It's late. The room is quiet. You've already typed the message 3 times. Deleted it 3 times. Your thumb hovers over the screen and your chest feels tight, like something bad will happen if you don't send it. And in that moment, a thought crosses your mind that scares you a little. What if I don't reach out this time? What if I stay silent? That moment right there is where your life quietly starts to change. You've been told your whole life that connection comes from effort, that love comes from giving more, explaining more, forgiving faster. So silence feels wrong to you. It feels like abandonment. It feels like punishment. It feels like you're being someone you're not. But I promise you, and I'll explain this later, silence used with self-respect is not rejection. It's information. And there's another truth I'll unpack soon that most people never realize. The more you chase, the less powerful your position becomes, even if your intentions are pure. You are not weak for finding silence hard. Silence presses on your nervous system because you were trained to stay emotionally available to feel safe. Somewhere along the way, you learned that being needed meant being valued, that responding quickly meant being loved. So when you stop, your body reacts as if danger is coming. Your mind starts creating stories. They'll forget me. They'll move on. I'll lose my chance. That discomfort is not intuition. It's conditioning. No contact feels painful because it removes the role you've been playing. The role of stabilizer, the role of emotional caretaker, the role of the one who smooths things over so nothing breaks. When you step back, there's suddenly space. And space is uncomfortable when you're used to managing everything. But that space is also powerful because it reveals what was real and what was only being held together by your effort. Here's the spine line I want you to remember. Chasing costs you power, silence restores it. Let that settle. Chasing costs you power, silence restores it. This isn't about manipulation, it's about balance. When you are always the one reaching out, explaining, checking in, you quietly place yourself below the other person, not because they demand it, but because the dynamic trains them to expect it. Think about it. When you chase, you remove the other person's need to show up. You answer questions they haven't earned answers to. You soothe emotions they haven't taken responsibility for. Over time, this creates an imbalance that slowly erodes respect. Even in relationships that start with love, chasing teaches the other person that your presence is guaranteed. And what is guaranteed is rarely protected. Silence does the opposite. Silence asks a quiet question without saying a word. Will you step forward if I step back? Will you meet me without being pulled? Will you notice my absence not because you're panicking, but because you value me? I'll explain later why the answer to that question tells you everything you need to know. You might worry that silence will push them away. And yes, sometimes it will. But ask yourself this honestly. If the connection only survives when you chase, was it ever secure? Silence doesn't destroy healthy bonds. It exposes unhealthy ones. It removes the emotional scaffolding you were holding up alone. And whatever falls apart when you stop holding it was never standing on its own. This is why no contact feels powerful even when it hurts. You stop leaking energy. You stop reacting. You stop proving. Instead of bending yourself to keep the connection alive, you allow the truth of the connection to surface. And truth, even when it's painful, gives you your dignity back. Chasing feels like love to you because it feels active. It feels like you're doing something. Silence feels like doing nothing, and that scares you. But silence is not nothing. Silence is restraint. Silence is self-control. Silence is choosing not to abandon yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. When you stop chasing, something shifts inside you first. There's anxiety, yes. But there's also a quiet strength that starts to grow. You realize you don't have to explain yourself into being chosen. You don't have to audition for care. You don't have to remind someone of your worth. Your value doesn't increase when you chase. It becomes visible when you stop. And here's the part most people don't tell you. The person on the other side feels this shift too. They may not say it. They may not even understand it. But the dynamic changes. The emotional gravity changes. I'll explain in the next part what actually happens in their mind when you stop reaching out, and why your silence often speaks louder than any message ever could. For now, sit with this truth. Chasing costs you power. Silence restores it. You are not disappearing. You are returning to yourself. And in that return, everything begins to realign. When you step back, it doesn't just change the situation. It changes your nervous system. That's the psychology most people miss. You've been living in a constant state of emotional alert, always scanning for signs, tones, delays, shifts. Stepping back feels uncomfortable because your body is used to staying activated. It confuses calm with danger. But the moment you stop reaching out, your system begins to recalibrate. Not instantly. Slowly. And that slowness is important because it teaches you something new. You can survive without casing. You can breathe without fixing. You can exist without performing emotional labor. Psychologically, stepping back removes reinforcement. When you chase, you reward distance. You teach the other person that they can pull away and still receive connection, reassurance, access to. When you step back, that reward disappears. And this is where something interesting happens in their mind. At first, there is relief. Yes, relief. Less pressure, less expectation. But then comes awareness. The silence creates a mirror. They start to notice the space you used to fill, the messages that aren't coming, the emotional support that isn't automatically there anymore. This is where panic can begin, not because they suddenly became more loving, but because the dynamic changed. Humans are wired to notice loss more than presence. When you stop reaching out, you interrupt the pattern their nervous system relied on. You become unpredictable in a way that commands attention, not loud attention, and quiet attention is powerful. Here is the spine line again, because you need to hear it from different angles. Chasing costs you power. Silence restores it. When you stop chasing, you stop broadcasting need. You stop signaling that you will always be there no matter how little effort they make. That alone shifts how you are perceived. People don't respect what they don't have to work to maintain. In their mind, questions start to form. Are you okay? Did I do something? Are you pulling away for good? And here's the key point. These questions don't arise when you chase. They arise when you don't. Silence creates curiosity. Silence creates self-reflection. Silence forces them to feel what you've been feeling all along. Uncertainty, absence, emotional distance. Now let's talk about the urge to text or call, because this is where most people break. The urge doesn't come from love. It comes from anxiety. It comes from your body wanting relief. So the first practical step is this. Do not argue with the urge. Observe it. When you feel the impulse to reach out, pause and name it silently. This is discomfort, not danger. Naming it creates space between you and the action. Second, delay, don't decide. Tell yourself you will wait 24 hours. Not forever. Just 24 hours. Urges rise and fall like waves. They feel urgent, but they are temporary. Most people text to stop the feeling, not to say something meaningful. Give the feeling time to pass. Third, redirect your hands. This matters more than people think. Pick up a pen, go for a walk, clean something, move your body. The urge to text lives in the body, not just the mind. Movement helps discharge it. Fourth, write the message, but don't send it. Put it in your notes. Say everything you want to say there. You're not suppressing yourself. You're choosing where your words go. There's a difference. Every time you resist the urge to chase, you strengthen a new identity. Someone who can tolerate discomfort without self-betrayal. Someone who doesn't need immediate reassurance to feel whole. And yes, it's hard, but remember the spine line. Chasing costs you power, silence restores it. So what should you focus on daily instead of chasing? Focus on structure. Structure calms the nervous system. Wake up at a consistent time. Eat regularly. Move your body. Do one thing each day that requires focus. Read, work, learn. These are not distractions. They are stabilizers. Focus on your inner dialogue. Notice how often you talk to yourself like you are disposable. Replace that voice with something steadier. I am allowed to pause. I am allowed to step back. I am allowed to see who meets me without chasing. Focus on relationships that don't require performance. Friends who don't drain you. Spaces where you don't have to explain your worth. These connections remind you what mutual energy feels like. And focus on your boundaries not as walls, but as filters. You're not closing yourself off. You're becoming selective. There is a difference. Silence gives you the space to observe instead of react. To see patterns instead of excuses. Let me say it again because repetition rewires the mind. Chasing costs you power. Silence restores it. Silence doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about yourself to stop chasing clarity from someone who isn't offering it freely. In the next part, we'll talk about what happens next, what to do if they come back, and what it means if they don't. Because silence always reveals the truth, not the truth you hope for, the truth you need if they come back. This is where everything truly matters. Not what they say, but how you respond. The mistake many people make is returning to the old rhythm out of relief. You feel chosen again and the anxiety quiets down, so you speed up, soften your standards, explain yourself, overgive just a little to make sure it sticks. That's how the old cycle restarts. If they come back, you move slower than your emotions want to. Calm pace is your protection. You don't need to interrogate them or demand explanations. You observe. Do their actions match their words over time? Do they show consistency without being reminded? Do they respect your boundaries without pushing against them? Boundaries are not speeches. They are behaviors. You don't announce them. If something feels off, you pause. You don't rush to fix the discomfort. You let it exist long enough to give you information. Standards matter here. Standards are not ultimatums. They are quiet requirements for access to your life. You don't lower them because someone returned. You raise your awareness. If they want space in your world again, they meet you where you are now, not where you used to be when you were chasing. Remember the spine line. Chasing costs you power. Silence restores it. That doesn't change just because someone knocks again. Now, if they don't come back, this is where real strength is formed. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. The kind that lets you grieve without humiliating yourself. Closure does not come from another conversation. It comes from acceptance. Acceptance that the silence answered the question you were afraid to ask. Silence reveals truth either way. It always has. If they don't reach out, it doesn't mean you are unlovable. It means the connection required you to abandon yourself to survive. And that's not love. That's endurance. Walking away with dignity means you stop rewriting history to make it hurt less. You stop blaming yourself for not being enough. You tell the truth gently. I showed up fully. They couldn't meet me there. Moving forward doesn't mean you harden your heart. It means you protect it with wisdom. You take what this experience taught you and you apply it earlier next time. You listen sooner. You pause when your body tightens. You stop explaining yourself to people who benefit from misunderstanding you. Silence reveals truth either way. If they return with consistency and respect, you see it. If they disappear, you see that too. Either way, you are no longer guessing, and clarity is peace. Let me bring this together quickly. Silence felt hard because your nervous system was used to chasing safety. Chasing lowered your position because it trained imbalance into the connection. Stepping back shifted the dynamic and returned you to yourself. If they come back, you move slowly, hold your standards, and let actions speak. If they don't, you choose dignity over pursuit and grow forward without resentment. Here's the one clear action step. For the next 7 days, practice intentional silence where you usually chase, not as a tactic, but as self-respect. When the urge appears, pause, breathe, and choose not to abandon yourself. Write instead of send. Walk instead of react. Let silence do its work. Say the spine line one last time with me, not as a rule, but as a reminder. Chasing costs you power, silence restores it. And again, quietly, for the part of you that's learning to trust itself. Chasing costs you power, silence restores it. You are not becoming distant. You are becoming grounded. You are not losing connection. You are choosing truth. And from this place, whatever comes next will meet you with more honesty than anything you chased before. If this resonated, watch the next video, where we talk about what happens when someone realizes your silence was never weakness, but self-respect.